All right, it is 11:45. It is DBT time. My name is Brian. I'm sitting in for Mary. She's on assignment, as I like to say. And today we're continuing talking about emotion regulation. So basically, understanding and naming emotions, what emotions can do for us, the reasons why we have them, factors that make regulating emotions hard, and a model for describing emotions is what we'll go over today. So we'll actually start on this page, first page here, and this is the model for describing emotions. And kind of get a good look at that there. And what this does, what this model tells us is it basically gives us kind of an overview of how the emotions are, how we can describe our emotions. So it starts with pre-existing vulnerability factors. Be your state of mind at the time, like feeling tired, feeling upset, feeling feeling emotional, feeling depressed, feeling something like that. And then our interpretations of the emotions, which is our thoughts and beliefs about the prompting events. And that brings us to our attention awareness of the prompting event. What do we notice about this event? How are we starting to feel? And then awareness, another prompting event, and secondary emotions are kind of the after effects of these feelings that we're having. And what these do is these kind of create biological changes. So our brain changes, neurons start flying around, we start thinking, different things. We start feeling all these different things. Our nervous system changes. Our internal body changes that affect the muscles. We have autonomic system start firing. Our blood vessels start to constrict. Our heart rate might increase. We may start sweating. Our temperature may go up. We may notice, we kind of, our heart starts beating rapidly. We have trouble breathing. We have our breathing gets intense and everything like that. And then, how do we express those? We express those in three ways: face and body language. So basically, our facial expression, our posture, our gestures. How we're standing, how we're reacting to the people, and how our skin looks. Are we flushed? Are we feeling embarrassed? Are we feeling agitated? And the words you say. So basically, the things that you say when you're experiencing these emotions, and your actions, which are basically your behaviors for what you do. And we go through all that, and that eventually helps us to name an become aware of what the emotion is, and actually to name it. So let's take, for example, if we'll go on to the other page, go to the next page here, and ways to describe emotion. So basically, what this model kind of tells us is it gives us, we sit there, say, we'll go for instance, the first word here, anger, which is, you know, we can either can be aggravation, agitation, annoyance, bitterness, exasperation, ferocity, frustration, fury, grouchiness, grumpiness, hostility, indignation, irritation, rage or outrage, vengefulness or wrath. So those are all different names for anger words. So those are all different descriptions. So how do we arrive at these sort of things? Well, the prompting event for feeling anger is possibly we had an important goal problem. Maybe or maybe someone or someone you cared about has been attacked or threatened by others, or you fear that you're losing power, status, or respect. That's something that can make you, or not having things turn out as expected, or physical or emotional pain, or something, or it could be something else that helps you, that gets you to experience the anger. Now, the interpretation of the event, which is the second step, interpretation of the events that prompt the feeling, is believing that you've been treated unfairly, blaming someone, blaming that important goals are being blocked or stopped, believing that things should be different than they are, rigidly thinking I'm right, judging the situation as illegitimate or wrong, or ruminating about the event that sets off anger in the first place. So what these are basically saying is, we have the prompting event, so the thing that starts our anger, and then we have how do we interpret this? How are we? What are our thoughts and beliefs about that prompting event? Um, so it could be anything. It's like I say, it could be stubbornly thinking, things should be a certain way, not another way. It's one way of doing it. The biological changes and experiences that we have with anger can be manifold. It can be we can have muscle tightening, we can have teeth clamping together, hands clenching. Feel our face getting flushed or hot, feeling like we're going to explode, or being unable to stop our tears, wanting to hit someone, bang the wall, throw something, blow up, or wanting to hurt somebody. So these are biological experiences and changes that we can experience with anger, because anger can be a very hard emotion to deal with. We can, how do we deal with our anger? Where do we place all this anger that we're feeling, all the frustration and anger that we're feeling at the moment? So it all comes down to, how do we express our anger? So we express it. We can do it either physically or verbally by attacking someone, making aggressive or threatening gestures, pounding, throwing things, breaking things, walking heavily, stomping around, slamming doors, walking outside, using a loud, quarrelsome, or sarcastic voice, using obscenities or swearing, criticizing or complaining, clenching your hands and fists, or frowning, not smiling. That can be have a main expression on your face, or brooding or withdrawing from others, crying and grinning, red or flushed face, or it could be something else. So these are ways that we express our anger. These are the ways that we physically feel the anger and express it through our bodies. And so the after effects of anger, which is basically um, the things that we experience after we experience that anger, is narrowing of our attention, a narrowing of attention, or attending only to the situation that's making you angry. So instead, hyper focusing on something rather than trying to work on what it is that's making you angry. Um, Ruminating about the situation making you angry, or about situations in the past that make you angry, or imagining future situations that will make you angry. Personalization, dissociative experiences, and numbness. These are all little after effects of anger that anger can leave you with. These are the feelings that can, be remaining after you experience your anger. And these are things that we really need to kind of deal with. So like I said, we have a number of emotions that we're going to go over today, just kind of have an idea of kind of explaining them and talking about how we are, how we, what these emotions, other words for these emotions, and, the interpretation of events, the prompts, the pre-existing vulnerability factors, everything. So we'll skip up to page 3 of that handout. Go to the next, up at the top where it says Emotion Regulation Handout 6, page 3 of 10. Again, page 3 of 10. It should be envy words. You got it? Okay. So envy. Other words for envy could be bitterness, coveting, craving, discontented, disgruntled, displeased, dissatisfied, a lot of disses. Downhearted, you could be green with envy. You can have greed or longing. You can be petty, or you can have resentment, or you can just be wishful. Now, the things that prompting events for feeling envy is someone has something you really want or need, but you can't or don't have it. Such as somebody has a Nintendo Switch, and you really want to have a Nintendo Switch, and you really are kind of like envious of that person having the Nintendo Switch, and you wish you could have it, but you can't, either because you can't afford it, or you just You just don't have it at the moment. You're not part of the in crowd. Sometimes, it's important to feel belongingness. And when you see a group of people having fun and getting involved and going out to have lunch together and stuff like that, maybe you feel left out. Maybe you just kind of, want to, you know, you kind of crave wanting to be part of something. So end up, wanting to be a part of the group. Um, or, someone who appears to have everything. Envious, envy is a really tricky emotion because it creates so much unpleasantness, and you really have to kind of deal with these situations. Um, you're dealing with unpleasantness and envy. Someone else gets the credit for what you've done. You're alone while others are out having fun. Someone gets positive recognition for something and you don't. That's always a reason to feel envy when you feel like you've worked on something really hard and someone else gets credit for it when really you were the one who kind of put in the hard work and everything. Or others get something you really want and you don't get it. Or envy can be being around people who have more than you have. Someone you are competing with is more successful than you in an area that is important to you. That can really get you. That when you have to be in competition with someone and they just seem to go through things easily and lightly and everything like that. And you're kind of struggling because you're dealing with deadlines and everything like that, and kind of trying to keep your head up above water. Um, so the interpretation of events that prompt feelings of envy is thinking you deserve what others have. So that's really kind of maybe a false narrative we tell ourselves, thinking that we deserve something that other people have. When maybe we've not put in the effort, or maybe we don't want it in the same category as they do. Um, it can also be thinking that other people have more than you, um, which is really, kind of a fair assessment because sometimes, we're inundated with all these magazines and news shows and everything, telling and commercials telling us, how we should live and what products we should buy and all that. And then kind of creates a sense of wanting inside of wanting to kind of have those things and, feeling upset that we don't have them. So, um, it can be something like that. We can have, be bitter about the fact that we don't have a lot of things. Or, we could be really downhearted on the fact that we don't have, all these things that we're supposed to have. Maybe you think you're unlucky. Maybe you think you've been treated unfairly by life. Or thinking you're inferior or a failure or mediocre in comparison to others whom you want to be like. Another interpretation of events is comparing yourself to others who have more than you, which is always a bad thing. You should never compare yourself to another person. You should always compare yourself to yourself because you're the only person you have to measure up to is your own self. Um, Comparing yourself to others people who have characteristics that you wish you had. Again, comparisons are really, kind of a double-edged sword. You compare yourself to other people, and you're always going to come up short. It's just a matter of fact that if you compare yourself to other people, you're always going to come up short. Or thinking you're unappreciated. So these are, interpretations that we can feel when we're feeling envy. So, or interpretations that we can make when we feel envy. That this is just how we view things. Biological changes and experiences of envy. We can feel our muscles tighten or our teeth clamping together, our mouth tightening. We could feel our face getting hot or flushed. We could feel rigidity in our body, or we can have pain in the pit of our stomach, having an urge to get even with someone, hating the other person, wanting to hurt the people you envy, wanting the person or people you envy to lose what they have, or to have bad luck and to be hurt. Feel pleasure when others experience failure or lose what they have. Feeling unhappy if another person experiences some good luck. Or feeling motivated to improve yourself, which is a really positive thing. That's actually a positive experience that you can have if you are so filled with envy that you feel positive, that you need to make changes, you need to motivate yourself to get better, to improve yourself. Now, how do we express envy? Doing everything you can to get what the other person has. You could try working a lot harder than you were to get what you want. We can try to improve the situation or ourselves. We can take away or ruining what the other person has. Take away or ruin what the other person has, which is really kind of really bad idea. Or we can attack or criticize the other person. Or we could be doing something to get even, doing something to make the other person fail or lose what he or she has, saying mean things about the other person or making the person look bad to others, trying to show the other person up to look better than the other person, avoiding persons you who have what you want. So, and these are all expressions, ways that we express the anger and envy that we feel. There's just different ways. Sometimes when we feel like we want to get even with them or kind of ruin someone else's time and kind of, take what they want, take what they have, and, kind of punish them in a way. So envy is a really kind of tough emotion to deal with because, we are kind of raised in a society where we're taught to want things. We're taught to want things. We're taught to, it basically is how our economic system works is on capitalism. We're told that we want to buy these things, and then we feel envy because we don't have these things. All right, and then the after effects of envy. Again, you have narrowing of attention, attending only to what others have that you don't, ruminating when others have had more than you, discounting what you have, not appreciating things you have or things others do for you, which is really kind of hard. Or ruminating what you don't have, or making resolutions for change. So that is basically ways of dealing with envy, of how envy kind of affects us when we're dealing with envy as an emotion. Next page, if we cross over to page 4 in our handout. And we have what are called fear words. So fear words, basically, these are things that we may all experience. We all deal with our emotions, and sometimes what we deal with are scary and kind of uh, hard and overwhelming. So fear can manifest in many different ways. It can be either anxiety, apprehension, edginess, dread, fright. We can horror, hysteria, jumpiness. We can be really jumpy. And nervousness, we can feel overwhelmed or panicked. We can have shock. We can have tenseness or terror, or we can have uneasiness or worry. So these are different words that we can use to express fear. So the things that can prompt feelings of fear are having your life, your health, or your well-being threatened, or being in the same situation or a similar one where you've been threatened or gotten hurt in the past, or where painful things have happened. So experiencing trauma or re-experiencing trauma again. That can definitely instill some fear. We can have flashbacks to times when we've been scared before. If we're in a similar situation, definitely can bring in flashbacks, or somebody can just say a word and it can make you kind of freeze for a second and go, oh. Being in situations where you've seen others threatened or hurt. Fear is also another prompting event. Could be silence. If somebody's giving you the silent treatment and you really are somebody who possibly craves validation seeks validation through others, and the person is being quiet, maybe you start getting scared that maybe they're thinking bad things about you or something like that. Stories that we tell ourselves in our brain. Being in a new or unfamiliar situation, such as teaching a DB class online and in person, that can be a fear prompt. Being alone, like walking alone or being home alone or living alone, can be scary. Can be really scary because we're on our own. We only have ourselves to rely on, and the services that we use. So that can be something that instills fear. Being in the dark. Sometimes, we need to have a light on at night. Like when we go to bed, we need to have a light on, kind of, help keep us feel like we're protected. Or being in crowds can be overwhelming for someone. It can really instill fear that you're afraid something's going to happen in the crowd. Um, Leaving your home can be scary, especially, you know, these days. When we've all been dealing with COVID and having to leave the house and not being sure if everybody's going to be wearing their masks or anything like that. Or just having been out of the practice of being out and about, being around other people. Living in the year 2020 can instill fear as well. Um, Having to perform in front of others, that's definitely, you can have stage fright, and yeah, definitely having to you know improvise or you know act in front of other people can be kind of overwhelming because you're worried what other people are thinking of you, if they're thinking good things or bad things about you. So, or pursuing your dreams. And this pursuing your dreams is really, that's something I struggle with because we have a fear of failure, fear of possibly, letting ourselves down, fear of disappointment, fear that we're not going to be as good as, we thought we were, feeling that we're not going to show up where we need to show up. So pursuing your dreams can also instill fear, really create because, you have to deal with accountability now. So stuff like that. Interpretation of events that prompt feelings of fear. And that could be anything from believing that you might die or you're going to die, or believing you might be hurt or harmed. You might lose something valuable. Someone might reject, criticize, or dislike you, which is an overwhelming feeling for me. Um, Feeling that you'll embarrass yourself, or knowing that failure is possible and you're expecting to fail. Those can really help um, prompt feelings of fear. Or you can also, prompt feelings of fear that you will not get the help you want or need, or you might lose the help you already have. So a lot of us are really kind of concerned about our social services that we rely on day to day. That we don't know, with the current situation in government and everything like that, we don't know if we're going to have, the safety nets that we use. So that could be something that probably might lose someone important. That's always another fear. If um, when we're kids, we always kind of get that fear instilled us that our parents are going to pass on before we're ready for them. Fear of losing a parent, fear of losing a sibling or a loved one. These are things that can really instill fear in somebody. Or you're believing that you're helpless, or you're losing your sense of control, or you are incompetent and or losing mastery. So feeling like you're kind of this is something I kind of deal with sometimes. I mean, fear is kind of a big thing for me because I kind of live my life in a sense, of having to deal with um, the emotion of fear of yeah of having to deal with fear of you know sometimes I feel like I don't know what I'm doing, or that I've lost the ability to do the things that I know how to do, and I know that's just, I'm having a bad day, but it prompts fear that, I could possibly be, bad things could be happening in my brain, and I'm losing my cognitive processes and all that. And, losing my mastery of skills. So these are, again, these are things that could prompt those sort of feelings. So, believing that you're not going to get the help you want or need, or that you're going to lose your help, or that you're going to fail, that somebody might reject you or criticize you. These are all valid things to help prompt fear. And with fear, our body goes through biological changes as well. So we can have breathlessness. Hi, Bill. It's in the art room. Where? Art room. Anyway, fear of success is scary. Yes, I agree. Yes. But the feelings we may change are breathlessness. We can have a hard time trying to catch our breath, fast heartbeats, choking sensation or a lump in the throat, muscle tension, cramping, clenching teeth, the urge to scream or call out, feeling nauseated, getting cold and clammy hands, feeling clammy, feeling your hair stand on end, feeling butterflies in your stomach, or just wanting to run away and avoid things. So yeah, I mean, I can definitely, fight or flight. Have a comment here in YouTube. My body goes into fight or flight. Seems to be how I filter them. Yeah, definitely fight or flight is definitely a fear trigger. Or thing is an interpretation of fear. Things that we, an expression or an action of fear. Um, yeah, I mean, emotions create changes in our body, and it definitely creates different biological changes and feelings of uh, you know, feelings that we're not there, we're not competent, we're not doing the things we're supposed to do, can create these, kind of feelings of uneasiness and apprehension and dread in our bodies that we're not, that basically, we're just trying to, do the thing we're supposed to do, but maybe we don't have a master of it. So these are things that kind of, these are ways that, the physical changes that we experience with fear can be completely valid and help us understand the feelings that we're having. So, expressions of fear or actions of fear. So, we could either flee or run away from a situation, run away from responsibilities, run away from what we have to do. We could have, walking or running hurriedly around, hiding from or avoiding what you fear. That's always way that we can, a way that we express fear is, avoiding things that are scary, avoiding going out or avoiding, um, talking to our boss. If we have to ask our boss for a raise or something, that can cause fear. These are things that we can do to kind of, hide, hide or avoid. We can engage in nervous or fearful talk. So sometimes when you're scared, you start chattering away and saying all sorts of things, and it's that's how that manifests. Or pleading or crying for help, pleading or crying for help, talking less or becoming speechless, screaming or yelling. That's another way. Darting eyes or quickly looking around is another expression of fear. The frozen stare, where you just kind of see somebody just kind of standing there looking, and you wonder if they're okay. Talking yourself out of what you're doing is fear. Talking yourself out of what you wanted out of your fear is an expression. Freezing or trying not to move. You can have crying or whimpering, shaking, quivering, or trembling, shaky or trembling voice, sweating or perspiring, diarrhea or vomiting, or your hair can stand on end. It can stand on end, and you feel like the tingle going up and down your scalp because your hair is standing up on it. So the after effects of fear are again narrowing of attention, being hypervigilant to threats, losing your ability to focus or becoming disoriented or dazed, losing control, imagining the possibility of more loss or failure. I know that one really well. Isolating yourself, ruminating about other threatening times. So these are all things that kind of, can be the after effects of fear. The kind of the post stress syndromes that we may experience with fear. Let's turn on to the next page and actually talk about happiness, which is an expression. Let's look at something positive here for once. Happiness can be expressed through many words: joy, enjoyment, relief, amusement, enthrallness, satisfaction, bliss, enthusiasm, jolliness, thrill, cheerfulness, euphoria, joviality, triumph, contentment, excitement, jubilation, zaniness, delight, exhilaration, optimism, zest, eagerness, gaiety, pleasure, and zeal, or ecstasy, gladness, pride, elation, glee, and rapture. So those are all words that express happiness. So we can feel excitement about something. We can feel elated about something. It's really kind of, all these different emotions that we can feel. Different ways that we can, express happiness. So prompting events for feeling happiness can be receiving a wonderful surprise, reality exceeding your expectations, getting what you want instead of envy, wanting what someone else had. You actually get what you want. Or getting something you've worked hard for or worried about. Things turning out better than you thought. You can be happy if you're successful at a task or achieving a desirable outcome. Or if you receive any esteem, respect, or praise from someone, that can help prompt happiness. Um, Receiving love, liking, or affection, being accepted by others, belonging to someone or with someone or a group. That's a good way to feel happiness when you really feel like you belong. You're with your tribe, you're with your people. Really kind of feeling that inside, feeling that happiness there. Being with or in contact with people who love or like you. That's always important. Having very pleasurable sensations, someone, giving you a shoulder rub be a pleasurable sensation. That can evoke happiness. So you can really, kind of see how all these different things kind of, bring about the feelings of happiness. Or, doing things that create or bring to mind pleasurable sensation. So these are all things that, like I said, are prompting events for feeling happy. And our interpretation is interpreting joyful events just as they are without adding or subtracting. And that's really kind of an important thing to do is just try to accept things for what they are and be happy for the moment that you receive the happiness. Really kind of, having that kind of mindful purpose of just experiencing joy and happiness. And, don't, say, well, it would have been perfect if it was this, or I would have been happier had this thing not happened, or, this, the happy, basically just, adding on stuff to make you, take you out of the moment of being happy. So expressions and actions are actually biological changes and experiences of happiness. As we can feel excited, we can feel physically energetic and active. We can feel like giggling or laughing. We can feel our face flush. We can have feel a calmness all the way through our body. We have an urge to keep doing what is associated with happiness. Or we have a feeling of peace, openness, or expansiveness. The way we express or act on our happiness is we could be smiling, we could have a bright, glowing face, we could be bouncy or bubbly, communicating our good feelings, telling people how we feel, sharing our feelings, sharing the happiness, spreading the happiness around. We could be silly, we could, make jokes and crack wise and do all sorts of fun things, just kind of express our happiness. Hugging people is a sign of happiness as well. Being able to reach out to a person and give them a big hug, that's a way of expressing happiness. Jumping up and down, you've heard that expression, jumping up and down with happiness. Yep, definitely is a way of expressing or an action that expresses happiness. Saying positive things or using an excited or enthusiastic voice, being excited, being talkative or talking a lot. So these are all different things that we can use that we can express through our actions or through just our basic being of being happy. So, and then the after effects of happiness is being courteous or friendly to others, doing nice things for other people, having a positive outlook or seeing the bright side, having a high threshold for worry or annoyance, remembering or imagining other times you have felt joyful, expecting to feel joyful in the future. So again, as you kind of see, there's a pattern to all this. So we have the prompting event for feeling happiness. We have our interpretation of the events. We have the biological changes that our body goes through. And then we have the expressions or actions of our happiness. And then the after effects of the emotion that we're feeling. So these are things that kind of continue how we, feel, how we feel at that point. All right, so we're going to skip ahead a couple pages. We're going to go to page 7 of 10, and we're going to talk about love words because I want to talk about love. Let's talk about love, shall we? Love can be said in many different ways. We can say it in terms of adoration or affection, arousal, attraction, caring, charm, passion, desire. We're on love words on page 7 of 10 at the top. Fondness, infatuation, kindness, liking, limerence, which I've never heard before, so that's an interesting word. Longing, lust or passion, sentimentality, sympathy, tenderness, and warmth. So the things that may prompt a feeling for love could be a person. It's someone who either offers or gives you something you want, need, or desire, like attention and love and compassion and kindness. Maybe it's the person who does the things that you want or need. These are people who can, like your parents. Your parents do things, when you're growing up, they do the things that you need and, and the things that you want. And, we feel love for them because obviously, they're our parents, for one thing. But, it's definitely, having them do things that we need that kind of guide us through life can help us feel love. Or does things you particularly value or admire. So, it could be a celebrity if they do something, if you have a writer that you really enjoy reading their works, you can really have a sense of love and compassion for that writer as well. Another prompting event for feeling love is feeling physically attracted to someone, or being with someone you have fun with. You spend a lot of time with that person, you share a special experience with that person. You have exceptionally good communications with that person. So interpretations of the events that prompt the feelings of love. So in other words, how our thoughts and beliefs about the prompting events of being love, love being the prompting event, is believing that a person loves, needs, or appreciates you, or thinking that a person is physically attractive, or judging a person's personality as wonderful, pleasing, or attractive, believing that a person can be counted on or will always be there for you. So these are kind of the thoughts and beliefs about the prompting event that we can have. The biological changes, the things our body feels when we go through the expressions of love, is when you're with or thinking about someone, you feel excited, full of energy, feel self-confident, you have a fast heartbeat, you feel invulnerable, you feel happy, joyful, and exuberant, you feel warm, trusting, and secure, or you feel relaxed and calm. Then you want the best for that person, you're wanting to give things to a person, you're wanting to see and spend time with that person. You're wanting to spend your life with the person. That is definitely an expression of love. Wanting physical closeness or sex with a person is another biological change for love. And wanting an emotional closeness. These are all, again, biological changes that our body, that our nervous system feels when we express love and feel love. So expressions of and actions of love can, with your, the face and body language or the words or actions that we can say. We could say, I love you. We could express positive feelings to a person. We can maintain eye contact or have a mutual gaze. Touching or petting, hugging, holding, cuddling. Sexual activities can be an expression of love. Smiling, sharing time and experiences with someone. Doing things that the other person wants or needs. And so the after effects that we feel is only seeing a person's positive side. And sometimes, that can be kind of, maybe something we shouldn't be doing is, just looking at a person, not accepting and not seeing their faults. Feeling forgetful or distracted, daydreaming. feeling openness and trust, feeling alive and capable, remembering other people you have loved, remembering other people who have loved you, remembering other positive events, believing in yourself, believing you're wonderful, capable, and competent. So again, these are all words, these are all different things. There are more, words and stuff that we go over: sadness, shame, guilt. But basically, we have these emotions. What are the ways that we can kind of change these emotions? Well, the first way to do it is check the facts. So in other words, do the facts as we see them. Do the facts, in fact, match up with what we're feeling? So check out whether your emotional reaction fits the facts of the situation. Changing your assumptions and beliefs to fit the facts can help you change your emotional reaction to situations. So if you're feeling guilty and because you were at work and maybe you took the last piece of cake or something like that at a birthday party, something silly like that, you know, and you kind of build up this idea in your mind that you're this horrible person who's taking this piece of cake and well, what are the facts? Well, the facts is you're at a birthday party, there's cake, and if there's one piece left, um, and, and you take it, you shouldn't feel guilty about it. You shouldn't feel like other people are judging you about it just because you took the last piece of cake. Especially if everybody else has had their cake. It's really kind of a bad example, I think. Of guilt. But basically, it's looking at a situation and interpreting it without your emotions. So looking at that's basically what check the facts mean. Just looking at something inquisitively and looking at it realistically and not throwing emotions or judgments into it. And basically helps change when you fit the facts, it changes your assumptions and beliefs, and helps change your emotional reactions to the situations. Another way of changing emotional responses is opposite action. And that's when your emotions do not fit the facts, when acting on your emotions is not effective. Acting opposite all the way will change your emotional reactions. So when we feel fear, when we feel scared, like we're afraid to go outside, if we feel fear for wanting to go outside, we do the opposite thing. We go outside. We don't let the irrationality of our fear overtake us. We actually go outside. We do opposite action, or we problem solve. When the facts themselves are the problem, solving the problem will reduce the frequency and negativity. When the facts themselves are the problem, solving the problem will reduce the frequency of negative emotion. So here we go. We'll go through check the facts. Um, we'll go ahead do check the facts, and that's we'll basically end the day on that one. So many emotions and actions are set off by our thoughts and interpretation of events, not by the events themselves. So in other words, it's how we perceive the events as they happen, not the events themselves. It's our emotional reaction to the events that set us off. It's our thoughts about those things that set off our emotion reaction. So events goes from event to thoughts to emotion. Our emotions can have a big effect on our thoughts about events. When the event happens, then we have a feeling, and then we have thoughts about the emotion. So examining our thoughts and checking the facts can help us change our emotion. Now, how to check the facts? This is really simple. These are really simple steps. First one, ask, what is the emotion I want to change? And we have, like we had on a few pages ago, describing all the different emotions that we have. What is the emotion I want to change? Number two, ask what is the prompting event for my emotion? So describe the effects that you observed, facts that you observed through your senses. And this is where you look at something without judgments, absolute or black and white description. So basically, you look at things, but you don't interpret them. You look at them and you just check the factors, saying, "What do I feel? This is how I feel What are the facts? I feel scared. What are the facts? Well, I'm sitting here and I feel nervous. Why do you feel nervous? Well, I'm talking about something that maybe I don't know or don't, have a lot of knowledge about. Um, what are the facts? I have studied this and I have done my own DBT classes. And these are, and do I actually feel fear? Feel a little, feel some emotions over teaching this class and hoping I'm effective in helping you. But, the facts are I have taken DBT and I have done, and I have done these skills and they have worked for me. And that's, basically, it explains that, I'm capable of doing this job. So 3, what are my interpretations, thoughts, and assumptions about the event? So think of other possible interpretations. One impossible interpretation is I've had a little bit too much coffee today. Maybe that's why I'm a little jittery and extra stress balling today. So I've been stress balling most of the day, just trying to get some of this anxious energy out. Probably because I have too much coffee. I have a cup of coffee here that I haven't touched. So think of other possible interpretations. Practice looking at all sides of a situation and all points of view. And then test your interpretation and assumptions and see if they fit the facts. So asking yourself, what are your interpretations, thoughts, and assumptions? So 4, ask, am I assuming a threat? And here you label the threat if you feel like you're assuming a threat. Assess the probability that the threatening event will likely occur. Think of as many other possible outcomes as you can. Number 5, you can ask yourself, what's the catastrophe? Now imagine the catastrophe really occurring. So, going back to 4, the threat, number 4, am I assuming a threat? What happens if this threat becomes real? Well, then you sit and think of and interpret, realistically without judgment and without, by filtering, what the possible outcomes of this catastrophe could be if it were to happen. So imagine coping well with the catastrophe, through thought, through problem solving, coping ahead, or radical acceptance. Number 6, does my emotion or its intensity fit the actual fact? And this is where we check out facts that fit each emotion. So if we go through feeling, we say we feel anger, but what we're really feeling is just kind of annoyance and irritation. Does that fit the facts? Do we have a right to be angry? No, it's probably just us being overwhelmed by something. And ask wise mind. It's always a good chance to ask, is this wise mind? So checking the facts, you ask the emotion, ask what emotion I want to change. What is the effect or event provoke? What is the event prompting my emotion? What are my interpretations, thoughts, and assumptions about the events? Am I assuming a threat? What's the catastrophe? And does my emotion or its intensity fit the actual facts? So those are the ways that we check the facts. And we can have have some examples here of emotions that fit the facts. For instance, love. Loving a person, animal, or object enhances quality of life for you or for those who you care about. Loving a person, animal, or object increases your chance of attaining your own personal goals. Another example of emotions that fit the facts is with sadness. You've lost something or someone permanently, or things are not the way you wanted or expected and hoped them to be. Shame. You'll be rejected by a group or people you care about if characteristics of yourself or of your behavior are made public. Or guilt. Your own behavior violates your own values and moral code. So just understand that your emotions can help affect these things in so many different ways and affect your interpretations of things, whether you're dealing with these things reality. So the intensity and duration of an emotion are justified by how likely it is that the expected outcomes will occur, how great and or important the outcomes are, and how effective the emotion is in your life now. So what that means is, how likely is the expected outcome? How likely is that to occur? If you do something like disaster thinking or catastrophe, thinking worst case scenarios all the time, how is that? How does that affect you? How likely are these fears that you have? Um, how likely are the outcomes expected to happen? Or how great and important are the outcomes? You know, if say you have to, you're feeling trepidatious. Someone said, "I have an example of emotions that don't fit the facts. When I am boxed in by trucks while driving, no, I am not going to die. It really is just an uncomfortable situation." So yeah, that's definitely an irrational feeling of emotions that don't fit the facts because trucks are kind of big and intimidating when you're on the highway and you're driving, and you get stuck in between two semis, and you're in the middle, and you're just this little car. You could feel like maybe any moment they're going to like kind of swerve into the lane ahead of you and crush you. But is that likely to happen? No, probably not. So long as you exercise defensive driving and understand that the other driver, as my dad likes to say, is deaf, dumb, and blind. Um, so anyway, so that is emotion regulation for today. I appreciate you guys coming in, hanging out, and giving in your comments. And Deb, I appreciate your attendance here. And until next time, we will see you later. Bye.